back in Miami?
Yep. Back here till tomorrow. Tomorrow, go to North Carolina for like 2 days.
Craze, you know, I was thinking about you the other day. I think about this story every once in a while. It's just, I don't know why. It kind of like runs in my head like once a month. I don't even think you'll really remember it. But there was one time when I was living in San Diego and you came to play a show. I think it was New Year's. I think it was some random New Year's show. It was at the House of Blues in San Diego. Oh, and I remember this. I had nothing to do. Pictures. All my people were out of town. So I hit you up. I was like, hey, can I just come hang at your New Year's show? And you said, yeah, we went and hung out. And it's funny because I just remember it as kind of being like a whatever show. Like, I don't think it wasn't bad. Like, there were people there, but it was just kind of like a whatever show, you know? But it was New Year's, and there was something funny to me. I think about it because it made me appreciate like what we do for work in a way where like you just showed up and you were just like, oh, okay, cool. This is whatever. And, you know, you murdered your set casually. And then they did like the New Year's countdown and everybody out in the crowd went crazy for a minute. But I just remember you and me backstage being like, yeah, that's not bad. You know, it was like kind of this like outside of the human experience moment. I don't know if you connect with that, but something about that, I was like, this is like a fun thing to do for work. It's fun that like, this is our trade. This is our craft, you know?
Yeah, man. I get that feeling all the time. Yeah. That's why I was probably like, New Year's, but we're just here kicking it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a weird thing. I mean, it's like, in some ways, I'm like, maybe I need to connect more with the actual human experience. But then in other ways, I'm like, oh, no, this is like just kind of a, you know, it's like when you look backstage at like a play or something, you know, and you realize that like everybody's back there putting their costume on and, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, that story, for whatever reason, I think about it once in a while.
I remember the party. I still got pictures of that party on my phone.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I don't remember anything about it other than just kind of being like, all right, whatever.
I don't even remember what I played, but the crowd was kind of lit. I remember that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's crazy for you, and I promise I'll turn this into like more of an actual interview in a second. But like for you at this point, man, like I was wondering, like, what's like still exciting to you? What keeps you going? Because I still think of you as such a road dog, and not just a road dog, but like someone who is really engaged with what they're doing, and still, I can tell you're still trying to figure out how to push it forward and still getting excited about new music and sounds. But I also feel like you've done so much shit now. Like, how could you possibly still be excited? Like, what is keeping you going?
You just said it. Looking for new music, doing new things, like maintaining that kid level excitement about everything. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like, music still does it for me. Now production more than actual DJing does it for me. So like, yeah, man, just finding excitement in anything you do and whatever I do. Like, after the pandemic, I even went back to like spinning drum and bass and doing hip hop shows again and stuff like that. I did another video and all stuff like that because like that's what I like. That's what excites me. Like, DJing for people, just to DJ for people, wasn't exciting me no more. So I just had to go back to the underground and drum and bass and all that shit that like made me happy when I was a kid.
Dude, I love that you said that, because that's such a universal truth that I've kind of been preaching a lot on this podcast lately. It's like, so much of it is just like, well, what would the younger version of me have been excited about? Or like, what would the younger version of me have found fun about this? It's like, I think so many people, because it's a crazy career and the music industry is crazy and people get burnt out and stressed out and all that. And everyone, and I'm sure you know this as much as any of us, but it's like all of our friends who have been doing this for a long time, everybody's in some state of being like, I want to find my happiness again. I want to be stoked again. You know, I want to forget about all the stuff that annoys me about this. And I think so much of it is simpler than people think. And so much of it is kind of what you're talking about, of just like, Yeah, just like what's like the dumb fun thing I used to do that I could just do right now, you know?
Yep. And that's always like a weird move too, because, you know, people move on and you want to go back to like that vibe. Like when I got back into drum and bass, like I had to like really find out real quick that the kind of drum and bass that I liked wasn't popping anymore. Like there's a whole new scene and there's a whole new sound, but that excited me as well.
Did you figure it out? Is
So
that one of those things where like if you don't get it at first, then you're like, well, I just got to crack it. I got to figure out like why people are into this. Like I got to figure out my angle.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of course. And luckily with drum and bass, it's still all about the music. People still, you know what I mean? Like there's like the older generation is still cracking, and then the newer generation is still cracking. The newer generation respects the older generation. Everybody's like, you know what I mean? Everybody just kind of like vibes with each other. Nobody's like the new drum and bass scene is less assholey than the older generation. They have good energy. They're happy-go-lucky, and I haven't met one new kid that's like not a vibe. So
yeah,
it's a good scene. It's a good scene.
Why do you think the old scene was more assholes? Because you're totally right. Was it just because it's like it was a smaller scene and they felt more protective of it back then?
That's exactly what it was. I think they were just really protective of the music they created, and they just they wanted to gatekeep.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They wanted to gatekeep. They wanted to keep in charge. You know, they wanted to keep the hierarchy in charge. And people remember when I got to drum and bass, it was blowing up. It was like a couple years later after hip hop. So everybody was going from like just clubs in London to playing all over the world. So it's just like with anything, like you don't know how to act when you're blowing up. Like I didn't know how to act when I was blowing up. You know, like they were just blowing up and they didn't know how to like cultivate the scene better, I guess. So they were kind of just like, this is our thing, bruv. And that's, I guess, what it was. I guess that's what it was. But now vibes are great. Like, you know what I mean? It's been a couple years. Drum and bass is global. You have healthy scenes all over the world. So there's no more of that.
It's crazy to see it in the US now. Like how, do you feel that when you're going around playing shows? Are you playing more drum and bass these days? Because you've always played everything.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped spinning drum and bass in 2008, and I just got back into it after pandemic. A little bit before pandemic, I was just like, I did my first show at Respect again, and it was like, whoa, this is fucking fire. And then after the pandemic, I really went full in. And yeah, I noticed the vibe. Like, I think it was after the pandemic that a lot of genres came back. Dubstep came back. Drum and bass came back. Like right now, trap is having its moment, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it's having its moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think part of that is like the streams everybody was doing over the pandemic. They kind of, I think it allowed people to chill out about like their particular scene and their particular like whatever their pretentious, you know, thing was of like my thing is better than your thing. Because when everybody's sort of just like flattened on a screen and you're just watching people in their house like playing records. I was watching your streams. You were playing some drum and bass on those. And, you know, it's like, I think everybody kind of, in a weird way, it chilled everybody out on the like need to, you know, feel like you have to keep scenes separate and you have to, you know, if you're a part of one, you can't be a part of the other. I don't know. It's a funny thing.
I feel like during the pandemic, everybody went a little bit back to their roots.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Because there's safety in that too. It's like
everybody thought they were dying.
I mean, that's right. If you're scared, then there's comfort in like something familiar, right? I think that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to what we were just saying of like, you know, if you feel bad, sometimes looking at shit that used to make you happy will still make you happy now, you know? It's like just shit you haven't thought about in a while. But Matsu, I wanted to ask you, what's your, because I know you're a turntablist from way back and a long time DJ and producer as well, but I know less about like how you got there. For you, when did you start DJing and when did you start producing music?
Yeah, my career is definitely not as legacied as Craze's, so
I mean,
there's not
no one's
as much out there in comparison.
Soon to be.
That's yeah. I mean, I got my story with Craze and like my career are very much like intertwined. Like I started DJing when I was like 14, 15, and I started because I stumbled across his those Native Instruments videos. So a little bit before New Slaves, but like when Craze was doing the stuff on Tractor, I got the like that Tractor box and everything, and like that was like the very, very beginning for me when he was already like here. I was like, I really just wanted to like learn technical like battle DJing. That was like what was exciting to me, because I was just like, I wasn't even in high school yet, or I was just in high school, like wasn't partying, I wasn't going to clubs. I had no concept of like club culture. I'm from Indianapolis, and like, you know, I wasn't like hearing, you know, club music on radio or anything like that, like out here on the East Coast or on the West Coast. So yeah, I just wanted to like be a battle DJ, and I was super into like Red Bull freestyle and all that stuff. And then like as I got older, I got into like my local club scene, and again, everything was like open format oriented. And like, to me, the pinnacle of DJing was to like win a Red Bull freestyle or to win a DMC or something like that. So yeah, I was like doing a lot of like DJing and stuff all through college. I was like interested in production, but I was gigging quite a lot. So like, to me, the connection between like needing to produce music to have some sort of like momentum wasn't really apparent, because I was playing a lot. And so yeah, I think in like 2018, I did Red Bull. I did Goldies first, and then I did Three Style the year after. And I did pretty well. I didn't win, but I did well enough to where I was like really happy with how I was, you know, I felt like I had achieved something, the thing that I set out to do. But making music is what started to become more interesting and felt like more of a challenge, but also more like sustainable as like a long-term career.
Yeah.
So actually during COVID was really when I was like, okay, I really want to like go in and learn this, because, you know, I stopped gigging. I wasn't playing anywhere. I had just moved to New York like the year before. So yeah, I was like locked up just like everybody else. And I was like, all right, cool. Let's actually give making music like a shot. And I'm glad I started doing it.
Yeah. I mean, if you rose to that level of like placing high in, you know, Three Style or like Fool's Gold, Goldie Awards kind of competitions, I have to imagine there's some part of you that you are a hard worker. Like you are able to make yourself kind of just sit down and practice a lot, because your productions are great too. But that also takes a long time to get good at. So it's to me, it's kind of impressive that you've gotten this far in like quote unquote this short of a time as a producer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, I feel like I got to a point where there was a level of like technical mastery that I see a lot of other like very, very technical battle DJs have, that I was like, I don't know if I want that or that's going to be like fulfilling. And so let's like direct the same, like, I'm going to scratch all day energy towards like, I want to learn how to like synthesize a kick really.
He didn't want to put in the 20,000 hours.
I did the first 10, and then I was like, the next 10, I'm cool. Let's do something else.
Like, fuck, that's a long time.
Yeah, dude. But even that, I mean, what is that in you? Where does that come from? That ability to just like scratch all day or produce all day? Because not everybody has that. Like a lot of people try to, place highly in a turntablist battle and don't. You know what I mean?
That's a good question. Both my parents are immigrants. They're both academics, like very, very smart people. So like the immigrant work mentality, I think, is a big part of it. I know it's like a cliche, but like I really do ascribe a lot of it to that. Like my dad's Japanese, my mom's a Russian Jew, so like I got there's a lot of like hard work ethics that are like instilled in you, and that was like always split between like academia and music. Like I was always playing instruments through school, and like I was always into music from a young age, but it was always like, you know, balancing that with like a rigorous school thing. So now like after the fact, and I can put all my energy into this, it's like, oh, this is both like challenging but as rewarding as can be.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because Matsu really does kind of remind me of like A-Track. Like like the similarities are there because like both of his parents are into academia and stuff like that. And then like, you know, his work ethic is like A-Track's. Like he's very meticulous. He's very like wants to learn how to do everything. You know what I mean? I got to figure out how to make this kick sound good. Craze. I just saw this tutorial and it's about the EQing and this and that. And that's just like A-Track. That's exactly how A-Track used to be. Like when we were making routines, you know, he would just, even the way that they explain things in its monotone, kind of like, yeah, man. No, but it's funny because like, yeah, man.
Thanks, man.
Man, he really reminds me of A-Track. And right now when he was explaining his parents and all that stuff, even more. Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Thanks,
I mean, the immigrant work ethic thing is for sure a real thing. I know that from a lot of friends that I have and people I've met over the years. But it's interesting that you ended up doing music, because I can't imagine that's the career path they were like really hoping for. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like I have a really good relationship with my mom, and like she's like full blown career woman. Like she's the shit. I love my mom. I'm so proud of her. But for her to understand what I'm doing has always been difficult, but she's very much like supportive. And it's funny, like when I first started kind of shifting in this direction, she was like, I guess surprised. Like I think she expected me to like be really on like the office grind, but I'm like, dude, you put me in like, I was like in piano lessons, and she's like, you don't like piano? We're doing saxophone now. You don't like saxophone? We're doing guitar now. So I was like I was playing instruments my entire life. And so like, I was like, I'm just going to be a DJ. I was like, I don't know why you think this is actually exactly the trajectory that we were on.
This is actually your fault. You did this.
Exactly. This is not my fault.
That's great. Well, this is another thing I wanted to put to both you guys. It's a super open question, but I think you both know more about this than me. Like, what's your general feeling about turntablism in 2024 and beyond? Because I follow it, I'm sure, less than you guys do. But every time I sort of check in, it's like, it seems like there's a lot of new blood. There's young kids doing cool stuff. But then, you know, also culturally, it's like they're not making techniques anymore. You know, there's like other stuff that's falling away. And I think for dance music, which is what I talk about a lot on this podcast too, like there was a moment where it seemed like they were really kind of coming together again. Now, I don't know if I feel like maybe they're going apart again, but I just wanted to put to you the kind of like focused question, but like, how's turntablism doing in 2024? Like, what's going on? What's exciting about it right now?
Craze first.
Oh, motherfucker.
After you, good sir.
Sure. I don't know, man. Like turntablism, you know, the politically correct answer is it's doing well and it's cool. And, you know, there's a new generation that's coming through and trying to keep it alive. But I feel like back in the day when we were doing it, it was bigger. It was more of a thing. But I think the superstar DJ kind of like stabbed turntablism, and we haven't recovered from that stab. Like, you know what I mean? Like, It became a thing where like, why would I want to become a turntablist, buy 2 expensive turntables, a mixer, put in those 20,000 hours to be better than this fucking guy Craze, when I could just get a fucking Fruity Loops download and become a superstar DJ.
True. That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Plus, you keep shitting on everybody. So it's like, you know, the more everybody wants to get in, they're like, oh, no, he's right. I'm not that good.
So
I'm kidding.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm done. Like, but the positive thing about turntablism though is that it's its own little subculture now. How breaking is, and how, like, you know, other what are they called? The 5 things of hip hop.
Oh, the pillars.
Yeah, you know, like graffiti, breakdance, and rap and all that shit. Like, now it's turntablism. It's its own little thing. It has little pockets here in Japan, there in fucking Eastern Europe, where it's thriving, and it's doing its own little thing. But it's very much underground, and it's very much like a niche thing.
Yeah. So I have a slightly different perspective than Craze. Because I feel like I lived through that transition as like the new generation that was supposed to go down that path, right? Like, I was super, super invested in everything turntablism and like scratch culture. And I was like, I like open format DJing, but like I was heavily, heavily invested in being a part of it and being like an active participant in battling and all that stuff. And even after being at like the height of where that like open format met, the accessible open format stuff met turntablism, I still was like, I want to move away from this because it's not like, I mean, it didn't excite me much more, but also I was like, this isn't like a viable thing to do moving forward. Like, if I want to have like a real career, be able to play shows and like do all that stuff, I need to like continue to grow. So like, I see the new generation that kind of like had a chance. Like, there's a lot of guys like my age that I stay in touch with. And like, yeah, there just like wasn't a way to move forward. And you Craze is totally right. Like, it got overshadowed by the like superstar DJ thing. But it is still like alive and well in its own way, because Techniques are still making like turntables, like the Pioneer S11, that mixer that came out a couple years ago. That's like my favorite mixer still, is very much oriented towards like what like turntablist DJs want, or DJs who are like more involved. It's just like, yeah, it's like siloed off. Like, they're not making tunes. People aren't interested in watching battles, especially with like kind of what they sound like now. It's just not, it's in its own little pocket, and it's like not accessible to the masses, or like even just music fans. I don't know.
The kids need a new Craze.
Kids need a new Craze.
Amen. Amen. And by the way, just to be clear, when I made that joke about you shitting on him, I meant your routines. I didn't mean what you were saying. I just meant.
Oh no, I shit on him. Yeah, I shit on everybody. Oh, you don't got to apologize.
But that's.
I've seen my routines.
I mean, it's interesting though, because I feel like maybe this is a weird connection, but it's like something like TikTok, like short form video in a weird way has been good at surfacing like older music and like older eras. Like, all of a sudden, you know, a bunch of 18-year-olds know about a bunch of music that came out in the early 90s for no reason. Stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure there's gotta be some DJs just going crazy on TikTok, because turntablism is perfect for like the short form, you know, do a few tricks, get in, get out kind of thing.
Well, you know what does well?
You're giving me ideas.
You know what does well on TikTok is when people do like when people are juggling Biggie, or like it's time. People are like, oh my God, like I've never seen this before. Like, those are the ones that stick. But people who flip new stuff, with the exception of like the very obvious like word plays and like the tone play stuff, like it doesn't do very well because it's not like understandable. But yeah, if you juggle like mass appeal, people like lose their mind and it gets like 1 million views.
I should start doing more videos. This is giving me ideas. Thank you, Willy.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Oh, you could.
Yeah, because you're right. Like, all you have to do is come up with 30 fly seconds.
Dude, that's it. Get in, get out, and like
30 seconds of some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Like those videos that I send you, Matsu, like those little videos of like, oh my God, look at this idea. I could just probably like do those things and people will be like, what the fuck?
I think so, man. Yeah, because I mean, Matsu, like you were saying, it's interesting because it's like, it's a blessing and a curse, because you're right that people maybe don't even have the context to understand what they're seeing or like what you're doing. But then at the same time, if you can figure out a way to crack it, then it's like blowing people's minds, you know, immediately, because they've just never seen it. And you get to give them that like first time experience. I don't know. Yeah, I think there's something there. True. But Yeah.
I think so too. I'm on it tomorrow.
Okay,
Let's go.
Great. glad we had this meeting.
He's
to
serious,
agree.
by the way.
Yeah. Willy Joy just single-handedly saved turntablism.
Dude, I always, because I'm not a turntable. I always wanted to be since I was a kid, and I could just never. Like, I practiced scratching for a long time. It was just one of those things. I was never going to be like the top guy. I was never even going to be close to the top guy. And so I figured out other shit I was good at. But like, that was always to me just one of those things. Like, I thought turntablists were like superheroes. You know what I mean? I still do. But it's like, I just remember being a kid and just being like, oh man, I'm never going to be that good. You know?
Word.
Yeah.
So it's like when me and Craze scratched together. I'm like, this is cool, but oh man.
Okay, well, this is good.
Matsu's nice on the cut.
This is perfect. So, I mean, we're here talking about Omicasa. How did you guys? I know you've worked together for a long time in a lot of different ways. Let's go like, how did you meet and start working together, and then separately, like when and how did the idea for the group come around?
All right, Matsu, you first.
All right. So when I was in school, I went to Indiana University, IU. I really wanted to like be in music industry stuff. So I got on this thing called Union Board, which is like the organization on campus that threw two big like beginning and end of year concerts. And so I wanted to do, I was in charge of booking it, and I was like, we have to have Craze. And so I booked Craze for that. And actually, before that, I think he played a show at a bar in my college town as part of like some game day tour thing.
Yeah, with Dada.
With Dada, yeah. Top Plan was there. And I won the contest to open because I made a mixtape called 1 Cent because I was super into the 2 cent mixtapes.
Nice.
And I was like, all these other DJs in my college
Why
town
did I forget this?
yeah, I was like, all the other DJs in my town suck. They don't know what's real. Like I'm doing my thing. So yeah, so I won the thing to open for him. And I was definitely like super annoying that night. Like I was like 18 in the club. Like I wasn't supposed to be there. I like managed to get in to open. And was definitely yapping his ear off, being annoying.
Yeah, we still got those pictures.
Yeah, I'll send you those pictures. But I've got a full head of hair in them. It's
nice.
Something to both.
The good old days.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So I think just after that, like I booked him and Zach to do one of the shows. And I think we just kept kind of like serendipitously running into one another. And I think I was probably a little bold with just like hitting him up with shit. I was probably sending you bad songs and bad routines and being like, what do you think? Like,
horrible.
I was like, I booked him. He has to reply. And he was nice. You were nice about it. I would not have been that nuts. Yeah, man. I think you just kind of grew from there.
That's cool. And then when did you start working with like Slow Roast Records?
So right after school, I moved to New York. I was interning, or I'm sorry, I became an assistant after interning at Paradigm, which is now Wasserman. And Craze and I kept in touch while I was there because he was on the agency still at the time. And then I was just not having a good time. It was tough. That is a tough world. And the day that I got into 3-Style, I was on the train and I got the email that I got into 3-Style. I quit my job, and then I called Craze and I was like, I'm quitting my job. Like, what should I do? And he was like, you want to come work on Slow Roast stuff with me? And I was like, bet, say less, done. Let's do it.
And at the time, Slow Roast had split up. Like me and Jake had split. No beef. He just wanted to focus more on his music. And I had no fucking clue what to do with the label. Right. Like I wasn't handling anything on the label other than A&Ring, and it was Jake's team running the label. So I had no clue what the fuck I was doing. And I was just like, yo, Matsu, come help me with this shit, bro, please. I had no clue what I was doing. And Matsu fucking saved the label. Like he fucking came and just fucking got everything together and fucking. Yeah, I was just like, yo, man, you want half of Slow Roast?
I mean, that's a lot for like, a kid who you haven't exactly worked with before. What was it? What did you see in him, or like, what was he doing that you thought, this is the guy?
I mean, first and foremost, he was hungry, and he was a good kid. And I knew that he loved Slow Roast. I knew that he was about it. He fucks with the vision, and that's it. I was like, hard worker, he fucks with the vision. This is the kid. Like, this is somebody who's gonna fucking put his heart into this project, and I know it's gonna be for the right reasons. And so that was it.
I mean,
yeah, man.
that's a good message, note. By the way. Not to cut you off, but just real quick for anybody who's listening, I think that's a really good note, because people are always like, how do I find the right people to work with? How do I know who's gonna, be able to, whatever it is, be a partner in my business or support my career, whatever they're looking for. The hunger, like you just being like, first and foremost, he was super hungry. That, to me, in my experience, I'm sure in yours too, like that's the most important thing for anything, is like, instead of trying to, and Matsu, maybe you relate to this too, because you had that experience working at Paradigm, where I think a lot of young people come into the game and you just want to get what you see all the people you look up to having. So it's like the biggest agent in the game, or like a manager with power who can swing their dick around, whatever it is, when the reality is so often that like, no, you need the person that nobody knows about, who's super hungry like you are, and you can kind of build something together as long as you kind of share that vision. And it's just a good point, and I like to put that out there when someone makes it.
Man.
Yeah.
I think the same thing was what got me in the door at Paradigm. Like, I was relentlessly annoying. Like, I went to every conference thing there was. Like, I did everything I could to be on these people's radar. And the first day of my internship, so I went there for the summer and then I came back a year later. The first day of my internship, the assistant got fired. And it was Lee Anderson's assistant, and he was like, "You're the intern. You're on my desk now." So day one, I went from being like literally doing ticket counts in the corner to like being the assistant next to the corner office, like taking calls from these agents. I was scared shitless.
And Lee, for people who don't know, Lee Anderson, I mean, one of the biggest agents in the game, and he certainly has a reputation as, not the like warm and cuddly guy,
Oh, he's like the Ari of Entourage.
I have to give him props, man. Like he took a chance on me, and I think sometimes his reputation like precedes him in an unkind way, but he was a really caring and loyal and genuine person deep down. And when I told him that I was leaving, like, he was super understanding and supportive. And to this day, like, I still send him music. He gave me like a Guitar Center gift card, like a nice Guitar Center gift card. He was like, go and buy some gear. Like, I believe in you. Oh, and this is cool. Like, I'm quitting on this guy. And that's how he reacted to it. So like, and yeah, crazy. So like your point about the hunger, I remember I sent a message to Louis maybe like 4 years before you and I met. I was like maybe like 15, 16. And I was like, yo, I think he put out a song or something. And I was like, yo, one day I'm going to put out a song on Slow Roast. That's like my ultimate goal. Like, save this message. And like, yeah, man. So yeah,
amazing.
The hunger.
And one more thing, the hunger for the right reason is what I meant too. Cause like some kids are just hungry to be like famous, hungry for fame, hungry for dumb shit. So yeah, hunger for the right reason is very important too.
That's a good point. And yeah, I also was not trying to shit on Lee by saying that, but it is his reputation. So I could imagine you coming into this first day, just getting thrown into it, just being like, oh man, what am I gotten myself into?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, hey, I came back a year later, even after the
amazing,
the tough 3 months, but yeah, man, thanks for giving me a shot, Craze. Seriously, thanks, man.
Hey, man.
Well, wait, Matsu, let me ask you, I want to ask you the kind of an annoying question. I hate it when people ask me these kind of like open-ended questions, but I'm going to ask it just because I think you might have an interesting perspective. No wrong answer, but like, what don't DJs and producers understand about booking agencies and like getting a booking agent and working with an agency? Because I feel like a lot of kids don't really understand how it works or why you should have one or when you should get one.
Yeah, I think there's two big things, and I'm sure Craze has a good perspective on this too. The more obvious one that I heard a lot and that I saw in action was like, you don't need an agent as like the starting thing. Like, the agent's not like the career maker. Like, you have to give them ammo. Like, there has to be a demand So yeah, I think that's like the big one that people get wrong. It's like, I just need a manager and an agent, everything's going to work out. It's like, well, no.
Be dope.
You gotta be dope. The other thing that really blew my mind is, at larger agencies, at least, the size of the machine and how quickly some things come together. Like, I remember Lee, I won't say the client, but it was like Lee was going to figure out a year-long route for a client. And it was like, all right, cool, we got 20 minutes. Let's get this done. And it was like $1 million gross tour routing for the year. And it was like, cool, he's going to do this club and he's going to do this club. And then we'll do direct support on this. And then we'll do this festival because I have this guy slotted here, and boom, 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 boom. And like, this guy's whole year of probably whatever, 800, 700,000 net came from like an hour meeting. And I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. There's just seeing the machine up close like that and how much people get kind of slotted in. It's like, oh, you booked my A-list guy. Like, I'm going to give you 5 of my C-list guys to slot in on this festival. Just seeing the machine up close like that, that was definitely...
That's fascinating.
I don't want to say discouraging, but I was like, whoa.
I wasn't going to say discouraging, but I was going to say that it used to be different.
How so?
It used to be, shit, man. In the early days, I'm that old. I've seen the early days of rave culture. It wasn't a machine. I mean, that's just plain and simple. Like, the agents that I had in the beginning were my best friends, and they became huge. One of them is still at Wasserman. And they were just like, they weren't thinking of it as a machine. They were just like, who's dope? I want to book the dopest people to play, the best parties and do that. Now it's a machine. It's like, all right, this person is going to make this much money, so I got to put this person with this person that's going to make this much money. And if you're not making this much money, we can't fuck with you. Like, there's no, like, I'm gonna just leave it at that.
That's fair.
It used to be different. Now it's a machine, a big money making machine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think that mirrors how culture works in general, right? It's like, some kids make some cool shit in their bedroom or in the back alley. Some people get excited about it. It grows. It's this like pure, untouched thing. And then the more popular it gets, I always have to stop myself, or else I'll just go on like an anti-capitalism rant. But it's like, it's yeah. It's the same thing. Like, once the money gets in there, there's kind of no turning the ship around. Like, we all know where it's going to end up. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take.
There were acts that are like legendary, huge that I was there when there was like, I think we should drop them. They've kind of like slowed down. It's like, I don't really know if they're interpersonally kind of like a headache sometimes. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is like legendary XYZ. How is that even like a conversation that we're having? Like, oh, they like are late on their album. Like, who gives a shit? Like, it's going to be incredible. So yeah, man.
Yeah.
Money.
But on a positive note, the underground and talent always shines through. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that big machine is always looking at who's next.
Yeah.
Who's the one that's going to become the next moneymaker? But
yeah,
you become the next moneymaker. The ones that blow for the right reasons. They're always looking for that next guy, and it happens a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good point too for any like up and comers who might hear this, is like, even if you are in this because you want to make a lot of money and you want to be famous or whatever the reason is, the only way realistically that's going to happen, like for your life, if you want this to be a long-term thing, you got to do something cool first. And you don't do that by copying what's already successful. Like, that's another thing that I think when you get into the game, it's easy to just be like, I'll try to do the thing that I like, and, I'll just copy that. And if I can do it well enough, I'll succeed in the same way. But that's just not how it works. Like you said, it's, you gotta do something new, something fresh, something underground, and then
I mean, some people do that, and you know, they get their 1 or 2, 3 year shine.
Yeah, for sure.
But the ones that last forever, I mean, I'm not even gonna make it about EDM. Like the people that last forever in rap, in country, and whatever, you know, they have something that's really special about them that makes them last forever, and people, you know, they notice that. Like if you're prolific in what you do, you're gonna be here forever, I think.
Yeah. I think that's true. Let me try and connect that. This is going to be a little awkward connection, but I think it works. Is to focus it on the Omicasa project is, you know, house music, prolific, but also house music, which I think is a timeless art. You know what I mean? Like the elements, the basic ingredients of house music haven't changed in 30, 40 years. And I don't know, is there anything to that? Like for you guys who have made music in a lot of different genres, DJ'd, you know, everything under the sun. What was it about house music? What about this focus? Like, why now? You know, what was like the thinking going into this project?
I mean, the first tune that we made it at Holy Shit. And we just took some chocolate mushrooms and we just having fun. We were like, yo, let's make a beat. I don't know who we watched, but we went back to the room and we were like feeling nice. We were like, let's make a beat. Matsu, open up your laptop. Yo, I love this song by Mobb Deep called what was it?
Drink Away the Pain.
Oh yeah, Drink Away the Pain. I love that tune. It's like one of my favorite tunes, and it's not the obvious Mobb Deep song. We should remake that. And we did that. Like in one night, we had something, and then I played it the next day at a party. What party was it? Artie's party?
I think it was the Artie party. It was at a Shipwrecked. It was at the resort in Mexico.
Yeah. Right. So we made that tune. I played it the following night, and it felt good. You know what I mean? Like it felt like, you know, we just made this fucking track, and we weren't trying to make nothing popular, nothing like the other people at the party. We were just like, yo, let's get fucked up and make music. And I liked how we connected, and I liked how we banged out that tune. So we just kept going and we kept making more. And then one day in Miami, we went to go eat at Coat, and like we came up with the name, and then we were just like, all right, let's really focus on this, man. And yeah, how did you see it, Matsu?
No, I mean, I feel like the year leading into that, I was really trying to make house stuff or like more dancey stuff as like my main production focus. And so I think in doing so, I was like, whenever we got in the studio together, I was like trying to pull in this direction, because I was like, oh, this is like, you're not making this right now. I'm learning more about this genre. Where is there like overlap? So, I mean, I think at the beginning for me, just on a technical level, I was like, oh, I know how to do this. And like, I can bring something to the table here, because I was still like very much learning the ropes. But to your point about like the formula, or not the, I guess, yeah, the formula or the constraints of like house music, like I think creativity really comes from constraint, right? Like we have these very rigid parameters of like, it's got to be around this speed to this speed. Like there's got to be a kick and a clap. It's got to be an open hat probably somewhere, right? And so within that kind of framework, it forces us to be more creative with like how we use those elements. I think that's like the more exciting challenge, is because I feel like Craze and I came into it like, there's so much house music. There's a lot that we're like not excited about, or that feels like stale. And we're like, how can we bring something fresh to this genre that's like a representation of our vibes? And also like, there's no pretense. There's no like chase there. Like we're not like Craze doesn't, like, you don't need to be doing this for any specific reason other than the fact that like you're enjoying it, right? So like the same thing when we work on stuff and we take the time to like, me to go to Miami, for you to come to New York and like sit down, for me to send over 40 versions in a day of a master, like that is like work that unless we really enjoyed what we were doing, we wouldn't be doing. So I feel like it's an outlet for us to actually do something that we like think brings something fresh and like a new perspective.
That makes sense. And it seems like a lot of the house community has been pretty stoked about it too. I mean, not only just like, putting music out with Dirtybird and getting played out by Chris Lake. But I don't know. I mean, Craze, we were talking about how like the older drum and bass scene was not as welcoming. Is it different with house music? Like when you first started putting out stuff in that arena, did you feel it differently?
No, not really. Cause like, and even with drum and bass embraced me.
True.
You feel me? Like when I stopped competing in 2000 and I fully went on to drum and bass, they were like so happy that a hip hop boy was co-signing drum and bass. Same thing with house music. Like early 2000s, like everybody fucking loved that we were into EDM. Like everybody loved A-Track. Everybody loved me and drum and bass. Everybody loved us because like we were not part of that scene and we were embracing the scene because we actually fucked with it.
Which is
like,
funny.
We weren't like
just real quick. It's very funny. You just made me realize like that was back when the turntablists were like the cool guys and the like EDM, the dance DJs were like the nerds. It's like
yes. Yeah, man. Yes.
It's so funny
and
to
that's
think
how
about that time.
But it was like kind of like the opposite. Like me and A-Track were the nerds.
No, of course. I mean, we know that like, now. Let's be clear. Yeah, you guys are nerds.
For sure. And it was just like everybody embraced us. Everybody, it was just like, bro, I never met anybody in a house that wasn't nice or like, just,
Did you
embracing us.
What did you think of house? Like when you first started playing raves and all that, did you connect with it right away?
Nah, because like for me, drum and bass wasn't even house. For me, drum and bass was some fucking other crazy shit that blew my mind. That it was some shit that was on 45. It was just like, what the fuck? It was crazy. And the way that I got introduced to it, it was almost like I thought of it as like the hip hop of the UK.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I thought that was like their version of hip hop. House music, I thought, back in, nobody listened to techno. I thought everything was techno.
Yeah.
Everything 4/4 was techno to me. And I just didn't see the vibe. Like the only things that I was rocking with back then were like Armand Van Helden and Masters at Work, things that come from a hip hop, hip hop background. Those were the things that I fucked with. But when Fidget House came out, that's when I was just like, oh, house music is fucking cool. Like when I first heard, Crookers, Switch, Fake Blood, Boy 8-Bit, like all these guys were like hip hop dudes making house music. I was like, what the fuck? Like I was just in New York and I was showing Matsu all these old Crooker songs. That shit was hip hop.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? Like that shit, like the way that they went about making house music was totally hip hop and drum and bass, kind of like into like house.
Yeah.
And then Switch, when I heard Switch, I was like, fuck this. This is the most amazing shit in the world. And I still, every time we're making a tune,
every time,
like if we're not inspired, I'm like, all right, let's pull up some old Switch. Let's pull up some Crookers. And that's where we get the inspiration from, because I feel like nobody's doing that kind of like experimenting with house music. You know what I mean? Like everything has a formula. Everything has to sound like this. And I'm always telling Matsu, no, we don't have to sound like that. We could do something different. We could make a bass line that just keeps going
right,
and bring it back and keep doing that for the whole fucking song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a very blog house idea. Absolutely. And I mean, it sounds like you guys also have a good dynamic too of like, let's push out really far this direction. And then maybe, Matsu, you pull back the other way a little bit. And then, you find your way to the finished product. But I think that's how all the best like creative collaborations go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like that baseline thing that he's talking about is the record on Dirtybird.
Right.
And I think I can remember like at the time he's like, it's just going to go like this all the way up. And I'm like, but it's not going to drop. And like, it's going to be really hard to get the kick and the sub in phase because it's going to be different on every single thing. He's like, no, it's just got to be like that. We'll figure it out. I'm like, but it's going to take up so much headroom. Like the master's not going to be as loud as it could be, blah, 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 blah. Like, yeah. So like, I feel like now I've come more to the dark side because I'm like, yeah, fuck it, we'll figure it out later. Like, let's just get the idea out.
Yeah. It's all about the idea.
All right. So the question basically being, let me rephrase here. So we were just talking about Bloghouse. We were talking about inspiration from Fidget House. And what I was saying before all this cut out was like, I think the new EP, the We Got You EP, comes around at sort of this perfect moment in culture, because I can hear all those influences, the Fidget House, the Bloghouse, and also worth saying, I can hear the fact that Craze, you were around in that era, because I think it's a certain thing with like the Charlie XCX era to sort of recreate that nostalgia, but it's a different thing to have kind of been in it and experienced it and participated in it. Like I can hear that in the new EP, but yeah, it's just a cool moment to like put out this EP that is perfect for this moment, but also probably not intended for this moment. You know, it's just like a beautiful kismet kind of thing.
When we make music, I just go in there, Matsu, has something started, or I'm just like, yo, play something, let's get inspired by something. And it's usually something from that era. I'm usually like, yo, let's play some Crookers, let's play some Switch. And then they were so like experimental with what they were doing back then, like kicks just being stereo, crazy weird mixes. Like now everybody has like a way of mixing house and a way of engineering everything. Everything is kind of like nice and polished. Back then it was craziness. So like I get inspiration from that. Matsu, like he didn't live through that era. So for him it's like, what the hell is this? He's like, what is this? What the hell? There's no build. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm like, look at how Switch build. It was just a reverb build. It wasn't like you know what I mean? Like there was different methods and different ways that they used to like make beats back then. And that's how we make music. And like I was saying before, like I'm just having fun. I don't know. I can't speak for Matsu. I'm just having fun making these beats.
Having a good time.
Yeah, man. I'm just having fun making these beats. I don't really care what happens with it. I care what happens with it. For me, like this Omicasa project is more, I want to see Matsu blow up. I've been through this whole thing already. So like I want to see Matsu get his proper shine and fucking experience what I experienced.
That's cool. I mean, it's worth saying, maybe Matsu, for you, like, do you have like an end goal? Do you have like a vision for sort of what you want your thing to be? Are you trying to be like jack of all trades? Do you have an end point in mind with all of this?
Yeah, I think everything for me comes back to like dance music and club music, because that's what's like fun and exciting for me. And I have the most fun DJing. Like as much as I've had the production hat on over like the last couple of years, like still DJ my ass off. Like I'm pretty good. I think it all comes back to like it being in that sphere. But to what Craze is saying, like, I don't think that I don't come into like our sessions with the agenda of like, this needs to be like the biggest shit ever. In fact, I think that when I'm by myself, I sometimes get like, I put pressure on myself for something to be like, oh, this, I'm like referencing, these tunes and these tunes. But when we sit down for stuff, it's very like fun. And I think the music that I enjoy listening to the most, especially in like hip hop and stuff, is it captures like a moment in time when it was made. I mean, we were talking about this when Craze was here the other day. We were talking about, Mobb Deep Infamous, and like, if you'd never been to New York, you could listen to that album and it like paints a picture of that time and place. And it's like a perfect snapshot. And I think our sessions, even though they're not necessarily as like, illustrative, lyrically as like a Mobb Deep record, like they capture what the vibe was for us that day. If it's like with Doo-Doo Brownie, we were in Nicaragua having a few drinks in this like dope ass like treehouse Airbnb thing overlooking San Juan del Sur. And Craze
drink Flor de Caña.
Nice.
Yep. And he was pulling in like comedy, like old comedy sketches and shit. And this guy is like talking about some pretty profane things, like talking about, oh, give me a piece of that pussy, whatever, blah, blah. And he's like chopping it up. And like, we're just kind of like having fun. We're doing this on laptop speakers outside, right? So like zero thinking about like engineering or the mix or whatever, but it was like fun. The Me and My Crew song was like an idea that I brought And then we were at in Amsterdam at ADE, and we're at the hotel, and I'm like, "What do you think of this?" And he's like, "That's pretty cool." So each one of these is like a snapshot of a moment in time for us. That I just think that's like really cool and not goal oriented. So I know I strayed very far away from what your question is.
No.
Like,
this is perfect.
But yeah, like I of course, like I want this project to do well, and like I want to have, you know, XYZ milestones of like my career. But none of those things are like present for me when we're like creating stuff. I think if it did, it would warp what we're doing. And I don't think it'd be as good.
And one thing that I always tell Matsu, and like, I mean, it's one of those things where the era that we're in right now and how I grew up is two total different things. But I always stick to this thing that I started with, and the reason why I'm here. I wanted to do cool, new shit and be the best at what I did back then. And that got me to where I'm at. So like, you know, I always tell Matsu, man, let's just have fun and try to be the best at what we do and try to make the most original, crazy, weird, but fun music we can, and things will happen. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I never worry about like, which I should. I never worry about our social media presence and all this stuff. I'm just like, Matsu, let's have fun, man. The right people are going to listen, and the right people are going to like, you know, give us that shine that we need. And I mean, it's kind of happening. You know what I mean? Like that Dirtybird tune that we made, they didn't like it when we were on the conference call. They were like, you know, we don't like when people say we made this song for Dirtybird and now it's on Dirtybird. And I was just like, well, actually,
we did exactly that.
We did exactly that.
And it was fun. We were like, let's do something fun and different. It wasn't like this has to be for Dirtybird. We're like, what's something that would be cool for these guys that we think they do fun shit? Let's try it.
That's how we did it. And it happened because we were just like, hey, we don't care about nothing else but doing this for this right reason and for like, you know, and it happened. Oh, my headphones. Yeah. I'll keep talking. I don't have to hear you. And I mean, that Chris Lake thing, it was just like, what the hell? Like, it was a tune that Matsu, like 75% made it like in 2 hours while I was taking a nap at his crib. I come downstairs and I'm like, what the hell is this? This shit is fire. And then boom, like fucking, you know, the right people are listening to it and giving it its shine. So yeah, that's what Omicasa is. Like, we're just having fun making house music and something's gonna happen.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a good way to look at it, man. And it's, I think it's cool to approach like all creative work that way, where it's kind of just in the moment. You're not thinking about what the end result is going to be. It's just, you know, pure creativity, following your muse kind of shit. Craze, I feel like you've kind of always been that way. I don't know if you'd agree, but like, yeah. Is there anything you had to do to kind of learn that, or have you just always had that?
I mean, the lesson for me in life, and I'm in my older age, every time I look back, it's like everything that has won for me has been from that attitude. DMCs, turntablism. I was having fun. I just wanted to fuck people up. I just wanted to, you know, do something different. Boom. Hey, your dreams came true. Traveling the world, making all this money. Boom, 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 boom. Like, hey, I like this weirdo music. It's from the UK. It's fucking called drum and bass. All my hip hop boys think I'm crazy. I still don't care. Let's go. Boom. Oh, here you go. 10 more years of traveling the world because now you're into this thing. You know what I mean? And like, that's how I'm looking at this project. I just, you know, I'm making fucking cool shit with my boy, and it's gonna happen. It's gonna, you know, it's gonna pay off, and it's gonna give us 10 more years of traveling the world and a whole lot of more gifts. I'm just having fun, and that's how I've lived my life. And I feel like now I understand that more than ever. When you have fun and when you do things for the right reasons, the fucking universe just says, here you go. Have more fun.
I mean, amen, man. I couldn't agree more. Do you feel similarly, Matsu? Like, what's your creative process kind of approach to all this stuff?
I think I'm learning to have more fun and to trust that sort of like fun intuition more. Like, for context, like I was working a day job for like the last 3 years, and I quit in at the beginning of the year in January. And the biggest thing that changed, I mean, of course, I had like more time to create. That was the whole point. But the way that I create now is not as goal oriented. Like I am a big believer in like finishing things and like trying to like I treat each track like an experiment. It's like, okay, cool. This experiment was successful, not successful. It informs the next one and we move on. But I think that before I was like, I need to finish this and I need to learn this new trick or whatever so that my song can be better, so that it can get signed, and so that everything will start to happen for me. And it needs to happen. It needs to happen. It needs to happen. And then now, as soon as I stopped doing that, and as soon as I was like, oh, this sounds cool, I'm going to sit with it for a week and I'll come back to it. And then a week later, I have like a better idea. And then it gets better, and then it gets better. And then I send it off. And, you know, I think now that I'm more patient and more trusting that it's going to be okay, I think that
and we used to talk about that. We used to talk about that
man.
too. I used to be like, yo, Matsu, like, this is cool, but like, you finished this in like 2 days.
Yeah.
That was my nice way of saying, I don't like this.
Yeah. I'd be like, wait, and that means that I can finish 10 more in the next 20 days. And I was like, all right, cool.
No, I was just like, no, you got to sit with it. You got to sit with it. You got to sit with it. You know, let it become something crazy and shit. And the best thing that happened to him was that quitting the job. Because like now his tunes have gotten so much better. His solo shit is like crazy. Like a lot of my friends are like, yo, Matsu, like, what the fuck? What's going on?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, man, once you have all that time to dedicate to your craft, you know, boom, things start to happen.
Yeah,
100%. I mean, was quitting the job, what was that moment? Was that like leap of faith moment? Was that, okay, I've saved up enough, I can try this? What was the deal there?
Yeah, I mean, a bit of both. Like, I have always kind of like had the stability of like working and not having to be like financially reliant on income from music, which is a huge privilege. And yeah, I think that I came to a point where I realized that I couldn't get closer to the things that I really actually wanted to actualize if I didn't commit myself wholly to it. So yeah, like there's an incredible amount of risk associated with it, but you know, I was like, I'm 27. I'm not that young, but I'm not that old either. So if there's a time to like really try to commit myself to something, it's now. So yeah, I have like, I gave myself a pretty specific like timeline and runway as to like where I would like how long I would let myself keep trying, or I guess failing, until, you know, I come to a decision point of having to.
There's no plan B.
But there is no plan B. Yeah, exactly. Like, but the more I commit, the less even like thinking about it as a timeline or a runway. I was over at DJ Shifty's place a couple of days ago. I was just hanging with him there for a second, and I was, you know, I hadn't seen him in a while. I was talking to him about, you know, quitting my job and everything, and he said something really good. He was like, "Oh yeah," he's like, "It's just always one continuous runway. Like, it's not like you get to the end of the runway and then like everything's cool. It's like, you know, you have this, whatever, 24-month runway, but then somewhere along the way that'll get extended a little more, and then you just keep extending." So yeah, it was a very conscious decision to like double down on what I truly thought was bringing me fulfillment. And I didn't feel like I could just keep kind of having one foot in, one foot out, and really be like prolific or do something cool.
I like that. And I like what Shifty said too, because that's absolutely the truth. Is, you know, you do this long enough and you realize, oh yeah, it's all ups and downs, and there's kind of there's no end point, but there's also sort of no, like nobody's going to kick you out, but you know? It's one of those weird things where like, yeah.
And as hippie as it sounds, you got to trust the process, bro.
Yeah, that's true. It's true, man. Yeah, it's a funny thing. Craze, do you feel like that? I feel like as I've gotten older, because I don't think I'm that much younger than you. All those old cliches, all the like sort of hippie way of thinking about all this shit, I'm like, oh yeah, now I understand why everyone kept saying that when I was younger, you know?
I mean, yeah, like I kind of understood it back then, but I didn't think it was a thing. And like now when I'm older, I'm like, well, if this is going to end in a couple years, I did it the right way because that way of thinking is the right way of thinking, in my opinion. Like, you know.
Have your priorities changed at all? Like, do you still love touring the same way? Have you shifted the balance of like which parts of it you're doing over time?
I mean, this is my life. This has been my life since I was like 19. So like, I don't know anything different. So like, I haven't shifted any priorities other than now I'm really loving making music. The turntablist thing is still there, but I love making music. I mean, I still love turntablism. I just made a fucking bomb-ass video last year.
Yeah.
But like right now, music brings me a lot of joy. Like, you know, having a tune that everybody's like, oh, what the fuck? Like I'm releasing my first tune on V Recordings. Like that is a kid dream.
Oh, that's crazy.
You feel me? So like that's fire. Having Chris play our tune is fire. Like these things that I never experienced when I was younger, it's mad fire. Like I was always just like the DJ guy. Now I'm just like, ooh, I want to be the producer guy.
Right. Yeah. That makes total sense. And I mean, man, just from a personal angle too, like it's so inspiring and so cool to see you still so fired up and stoked for what you do. Because you know as well as I do, a lot of people who have been doing this for a long time, they're kind of just punching the clock at this point, you know? And I don't even mean that in a bad way, right?
No. I understand what you're saying though too, because like, I mean, I see it in my boys. I see it in a lot of my friends. Like, it's just like, they kind of just, I don't want to say gave up. They just kind of like, they're just doing what is safe to them.
Yeah, they're just going to work, you know? It's like just
going to work.
Yeah, clocking in at the office, whatever it is.
Clocking in, right.
Yeah.
For me, I'm just like, man, if I'm going to clock out in a couple years, I want to have the most fun and I want to have the most fulfillment in my life till that happens.
I mean, it's hard to imagine you clocking out. What would you do?
That's the other thing. I don't know. Like, yo, I had a conversation with my friend that my friend, one of my best friends that she used to be my agent.
Denise?
She's like, what's... Yeah, there you go. I didn't want to say her name, but anyways.
Yeah.
You know, she was like, yo, Craze, like, you know, you got to have a plan B because, you know, I don't know if you're going to want to be DJing when you're 50. I'm like, I don't know. Why not? Goldie's still fucking killing it. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of people still killing it at 50. Like, you know, I'm like, what up? She's like, all right, but what about after that? I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. This is all I want to do. I want to, like, make beats, cut, make routines, and do all that shit till I'm gone. Literally.
I don't see any reason why you can't, man. It's another fun thing. Like, DJing is still, in terms of, like, human history, DJing is such a young art. I mean, we don't even really know what a super old DJ looks like. You know, there haven't been that many.
There's this guy named David Guetta. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we know what a couple of them look like, but yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No,
I'm just kidding. But even that is like still fucking ticking and talking. So
yeah, you know, I mean, look at like a David Rodigan or something, you know?
Oh my God, that's a perfect example right there. As somebody who's still fire, every time I see David Rodigan, I'm like, what?
100%.
It's like, it doesn't even seem like he's trying. Even when he's playing like some new drum and bass shit, I'm like, nah, it's some raga drum and bass shit. It's some shit that he likes.
Yeah.
It's very authentic. It's very like, hell yeah, you're supposed to be doing this. You're David Rodigan.
Yeah, 100%, man. And that's like, yeah, he's a one of one. And I mean, you are as well, for sure. And I think that's all it is. I don't really think there is an age limit on this, you know? It's not like we're presidents of the United States who really should have an age limit.
That joke would have hit a lot harder a month ago.
Yeah, I know.
Now we can laugh.
Yeah. Well, man, I mean, is there anything else we should say about Omicasa? Anything else that's coming up that people should look out for, or just things you guys got in mind before we get out of here?
More tunes.
We did a mix for Dirtybird that came out pretty fire. So I want to do more mixes like that.
Yeah, man. And, you check that out. Not you, but listeners. That's I think that is the culmination of like what Craze and I wanted to each bring to the table to do stuff differently. It's not like some of these house mixes that I see out there where it's like 10 tunes over an hour. It's like 40, 50 tracks in like 35, 40 minutes. Like every tune is an edit. Every tune has something, little flavorful things. Like, yeah, super proud of that. That's like a career highlight for me.
Yeah. So more mixes.
Hell yeah.
I mean,
are you guys going to do some live shows coming up?
I hope so.
Yeah, hopefully shit. Yeah, hopefully. That's the thing. That's the thing. Like, we're just working on the creative side, hoping something happens. So like, it's going to happen. It's going to fucking happen.
Yeah.
But we're not like actively looking for it. So like right now, hey man, we're giving you all the product. We're giving you all this fire shit. Something's going to happen.
Hell yeah. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, I wasn't even saying it to put the pressure on, but I would be excited to see your guys' take on a house set, I think is what I'm really trying to say. Because obviously you guys are both insane turntablists and you just I know you'd come at it from a different angle than a lot of people doing it right now. And that's going to be fun to see whenever you do start doing it.
Yeah. The first one's going to be big.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man, just more tunes. Like, I think we have some, I don't know if we could say them yet, but we have some collabs with like some producers that we really respect. And I'm like looking forward. I mean, it's still like in the works. So I'm looking forwad to how that one comes out. We have some garage stuff that we made too. Like one weekend, we just made a couple like bangers. Yeah, we're just having fun, man. And then Craze, you have a bunch of cool solo stuff that's coming up. I have some cool solo things coming out this year. So yeah, just more music, man.
I have some hip house stuff that I've been working on. And I was like, yo, I should drop this shit in the summer. Matsu was like, yo, summer's almost over. So I'm gonna wait till next year. So
I love it.
It's a vibe, but it's only for summer. So
yeah, I feel you. That's smart. I mean, that's another lesson for anyone listening, man, is sometimes restraint in the long game is the way to go, even though I'm sure you'd love for people to hear it right now. It's like, no, it'll just hit better at a different time. Sometimes you got to
get better with the seasonal changes. You know what I
mean? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, dude. Well, shit, man. I mean, I love you guys, man. This has been super fun, and thank you for bearing with me with all this weird trouble. But thank you guys for doing this, man. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
Right, man.
Thanks for having us on. I don't know if it was on the earlier recording, but yeah, this podcast was like really influential for me in that like year of COVID and just getting to hear from like a lot of the artists that I really respect and admire. So yeah, man, thanks for doing these. This is like an important part of the culture. I know there's a lot of people out there listening, so keep doing your thing.
That means a lot, man. I really appreciate that. And in case this also didn't get on the earlier recording, I've been a big fan of yours for a long time too. So, keep killing the tunes. And yeah, you've been good for a long time.
Oh yeah, bro.
My cat's here. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Craze, I love you too, man. It's been too long since we chatted. So I'm glad we got to do this.
Always love.
Absolutely. I think that's it. I think we're done. Thank you guys.
Cool. Thanks, man.
All right, man.
All right, my G.
Peace, guys. Take care.